Have you ever wondered if that charming stranger you swiped right on might have a dark secret lurking beneath their seemingly perfect profile? Imagine meeting someone who turns your dreams of romance into a nightmare. This is my story, a story about a match made on Tinder and how it turned into the most terrifying experience of my life. It all started on a cold, rainy evening in November. The kind of night where you feel like huddling under a blanket with a hot cup of cocoa, endlessly scrolling through social media or dating apps, searching for a connection in the digital sea of faces. I had just finished a long day at work and was feeling particularly lonely. With nothing better to do, I opened Tinder and began swiping through profiles. After a few minutes of swiping left, I came across a girl named Gemma. Her profile picture was striking, a stunning brunette with piercing green eyes and a warm, inviting smile. Her bio was simple but intriguing: adventurous spirit, lover of mysteries, looking for someone to explore with. I hesitated for a moment, feeling a strange flutter in my stomach. Something about her felt different, captivating. I swiped right. Almost immediately, I got a notification. It's a match. My heart skipped a beat as I stared at the screen, excitement and a bit of nervousness bubbling up inside me. We started chatting right away. Gemma was witty, charming, and had a way of making me laugh effortlessly. We talked about our favorite movies, books, and shared travel stories late into the night. It felt like we had known each other forever, and the connection was undeniable. Over the next few days, we continued to chat incessantly. Each message felt like a step closer to something real and meaningful. I found myself eagerly checking my phone for her texts, feeling a thrill every time her name popped up on my screen. We decided to meet in person, and after some back and forth, we settled on a quaint little cafe in the heart of the city. The day of our date, I was a bundle of nerves. I dressed carefully, wanting to make a good impression, and arrived at the cafe early. As I waited, I couldn't help but imagine what it would be like to finally see Gemma in person, to hear her laugh, to see those captivating green eyes up close. When she walked through the door, it was like the world paused for a moment. She was even more beautiful in person, her presence radiating warmth and confidence. She spotted me and smiled, a smile that reached her eyes and made my heart race. We hugged awkwardly, laughed about it, and settled into a comfortable conversation over coffee. The date went better than I could have hoped. We talked and laughed for hours, losing track of time. Gemma was everything I had imagined and more. As we parted ways, we made plans for a second date, and I couldn't wait to see her again. But that's when things started to get strange. Our second date was just as magical as the first. We went to a cozy little restaurant and shared a bottle of wine, talking about our dreams and fears. There was an intensity in Gemma's eyes that drew me in, making me feel like the only person in the world. After dinner, we took a walk through a nearby park, the crisp night air filled with the scent of autumn leaves. As we strolled along the winding paths, Gemma's hand brushed against mine, sending shivers down my spine. She looked at me with those mesmerizing green eyes and whispered, "Do you believe in fate?" Caught off guard, I nodded, unsure of where this was going. She smiled, a hint of sadness in her eyes, and said, "Sometimes I feel like there's a darkness following me, like something bad is bound to happen." Her words sent a chill down my spine, but I brushed it off, thinking it was just a fleeting moment of vulnerability. I reassured her that everything would be okay, and pulled her into a comforting hug. She seemed to relax, and we continued our walk, eventually parting ways with promises of another date. Over the next few weeks, our connection deepened. We spent every possible moment together, exploring the city, sharing secrets, and creating memories. But beneath the surface, there was always a lingering sense of unease. Gemma's strange comment about darkness stayed with me, creeping into my thoughts at odd moments. One night, while we were watching a movie at my place, Gemma fell asleep on the couch. I gently covered her with a blanket and went to grab my phone from the kitchen. When I returned, I noticed her phone had fallen out of her pocket. It was unlocked, and a notification from a strange app caught my eye. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up her phone. The app was called Dark Secrets, and the notification was a message from someone named The Seeker. My heart pounded as I opened the app, revealing a series of cryptic messages and disturbing images. It was like something out of a horror movie. The messages were filled with ominous warnings and references to ancient rituals. My mind raced as I scrolled through them, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Why was Gemma involved with something so dark and sinister? I felt a mix of fear and betrayal, unsure of what to do next. Just then, Gemma stirred on the couch, and I quickly put her phone back. She woke up, stretching and smiling at me, completely unaware of what I had just discovered. I forced a smile, trying to hide my anxiety, and suggested we call it a night. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I wanted to confront Gemma about what I had found, but I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding paranoid or accusatory. Instead, I decided to do some investigating of my own. I started researching the app and the messages I had seen. The deeper I delved, the more I realized that Gemma was involved in something much darker than I could have imagined. The messages were from a group that believed in summoning dark entities and performing dangerous rituals. It sounded like a twisted fantasy, but the more I read, the more real it seemed. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. I couldn't understand how the sweet, funny girl I'd fallen for could be involved in something so terrifying. I debated ending things with her, but a part of me wanted to save her, to pull her out of whatever dark world she had gotten herself into. One evening, I decided to confront her. We were at her apartment, sharing a bottle of wine, and I mustered up the courage to bring up what I had found. "Gemma," I began, my voice trembling, "I need to ask you something. I found something on your phone and I'm really worried." Her face paled, and she looked at me with wide, fearful eyes. "What did you find?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath and explained what I had seen, the messages, the app, the dark rituals. As I spoke, her expression shifted from fear to sadness and then to resignation. When I finished, there was a long, heavy silence between us. Finally she spoke, her voice shaking. "I didn't want you to find out this way. It's true. I got involved with a group that believes in summoning dark entities. It started as a curiosity, but it quickly spiraled out of control. I tried to leave, but they won't let me. They're dangerous and I don't know how to escape." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt a mix of anger, fear, and a desperate need to protect her. "We need to go to the police," I said firmly. "They can help you." Gemma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You don't understand. They have connections everywhere. If we go to the police, they'll know and they'll come after us. I can't put you in that kind of danger." I felt a surge of helplessness, not knowing how to help her. But one thing was clear: I couldn't just walk away. I had to find a way to save her, no matter the cost. Over the next few days, we came up with a plan. We would gather as much evidence as possible and find a way to expose the group without putting ourselves in immediate danger. It was a risky plan, but it was the only option we had. We started by documenting everything: screenshots of the messages, recordings of our conversations, and any other evidence we could gather. We also researched the group, trying to find out who was involved and how deep their connections went. It was a tense and terrifying time, constantly looking over our shoulders, fearing that we were being watched. One night, as we were going through some old documents Gemma had hidden away, we found a list of names, people who were part of the group. My heart sank as I recognized a few of the names. They were prominent figures in the city, people with power and influence. This wasn't just some small, secretive cult. It was something much bigger and more dangerous. With this new information, we knew we had to be even more careful. We decided to stay at a friend's cabin in the mountains for a while, hoping that being away from the city would give us some time to think and plan without the constant fear of being watched. The cabin was isolated, surrounded by dense woods, and had no cell service. It was both a blessing and a curse, giving us a sense of safety but also leaving us feeling cut off from the rest of the world. We spent our days gathering more evidence and trying to piece together a plan to expose the group. But as the days went by, the isolation began to wear on us. Strange things started happening: unexplained noises in the night, shadows moving in the corners of our vision, and an overwhelming sense of dread that hung over us like a dark cloud. It felt like we were being watched, even in the safety of the cabin. One night, as we sat by the fireplace, Gemma turned to me, her eyes filled with fear. "I don't think we're alone here," she whispered. I tried to reassure her, but deep down I felt the same unease. We decided to take shifts staying awake, keeping watch through the night. It was a tense and exhausting few days, with little sleep and constant vigilance. Then one night, as I sat by the window, staring out into the darkness, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A figure standing at the edge of the woods, watching the cabin. I blinked, thinking it was just my imagination, but when I looked again, the figure was still there, unmoving. I quickly woke Gemma, and we both stared out the window, our hearts pounding. The figure remained, a silent, menacing presence in the night. We knew we had to leave, but there was no way to call for help. We packed our things as quietly as possible, trying not to draw attention. Just as we were about to leave, we heard a loud crash from the front of the cabin. Someone was trying to break in. We grabbed what we could and slipped out the back door, running into the dense woods. We ran for what felt like hours, the darkness pressing in around us, until we finally found a road. A passing car stopped, and we quickly explained our situation. The driver, a kind old man, took us to the nearest town, where we were finally able to call for help. The police arrived, and we told them everything, handing over the evidence we had gathered. It was a long and harrowing process, but eventually the group was exposed. Many of its members were arrested, and their dark activities were brought to light. Gemma and I were placed in protective custody, given new identities, and relocated to a different city. It took a long time for us to feel safe again, and the scars of our ordeal will never fully heal. But through it all, we had each other. The darkness that had threatened to consume us brought us closer together, forging a bond that was unbreakable. So the next time you swipe right on a dating app, remember my story. Be careful who you trust, because sometimes the person you think is your perfect match might just be hiding a dark secret that could turn your life into a nightmare.